Welcome to the first of many video tutorials under the DSLR Tutor banner. This first video relates to the use of Lightroom. They're all related to use of Lightroom in fact, and I put these together for my adult education students who are currently attending a course I'm running on the use of Lightroom. But if you do find these on YouTube, then please feel free to watch them. Hopefully they'll be of use and you'll learn something. So this first tutorial is regarding importing images into Lightroom. Now you can do this one of three ways. Either importing from a card or a camera, that's the first way. Importing from a folder which may existingly be on your computer, or thirdly, tethering straight into Lightroom. So if you're in a studio, you're taking some portraits and you have a long USB cable which you've connected to your Canon or your Nikon DSLR, you can shoot your images and they'll come straight into Lightroom. The only thing to bear in mind with that is if you're using Nikon SLR camera, then the images won't be saved to the card, they go straight down to Lightroom. So let's progress with this first video then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug my card into a card reader, and the way that Lightroom is set up by default, whenever you plug a camera or a card into a card reader, Lightroom will bring up the import dialog box straight away. You can configure that if you wish. So I'll just plug that in and here we go. So this is my camera, Nikon D700, as you can see there. And it's telling me that. And there we go, these are all my images. Just waiting for this one to refresh. It should do that in just a moment. But those are all my thumbnails and those are the images that I want to import. Now by default, it'll display all the images and it'll tick all the images that you have on your card. So if you don't want to import them all, what you can do is you can either detick the images, and let me just refresh this one, it should hopefully work, there we go. So you can either detick the ones that you don't want, for example that one there, and as you can see when you do that you get a vignette around the image and it's greyed out, so it's telling you that you're not importing that. You can either detick the ones you don't want, but if you've got 250 images there, you don't obviously want to do that all. So next all you do is just click on uncheck all like so, it grays them all out. You can then obviously go through and check the ones you want. If you want to do them in series, as in one row, literally all you do is you select the first one, press the shift key on your keyboard, go to the last one, and as you can see they're all selected. Then it's a matter of just ticking one of them. Alternatively, if you want to do individual images then not in series, then you can use the control key. But for the sake of today in this exercise, I click on check all. So on the left hand side what we have is obviously we have where we're importing from, so this is my card, and we have various options along the top here, copy as DNG, copy, move and add. By default what we're going to be doing is copy, so we're copying the images from the storage card and I'm going to put those into a location on my hard disk. What we can do, we do have the option copy as DNG, which is Adobe's own proprietary RAW format. Now DNG stands for digital negative. Unfortunately I haven't got the time to go through in this video tutorial all about DNG, but let's just say it's an archival format and it guarantees you backwards compatibility. So if you have one of the latest cameras, which if you intend giving someone a RAW file to work on say CS3, then using DNG will guarantee compatibility. But by default we're going to select copy. Now on the right hand side here we've got where this is going to go to. As with any Adobe product it'll always go to my pictures, but I want to be a little bit more conscious than that. What I want to do is I want to download them to another destination. So I'm going to go 2012, I'm going to go July as we're in the month of July, and I'm going to create a folder here, so new folder, and I'll call this Lightroom exercise. I would advise you obviously to create a folder hierarchy system, something similar to this, so you've got year, month and event, as you can see here. Just to mention here though, in your years, always make sure that you label them, obviously January and before that 01. The reason why I suggest that is because computers, regardless if it's a Mac or a PC, will always search by either numerical or by by alphabetical. So if you don't use the numerical system and you put in, for example, January through to December, it's going to search by default by the first one, display the first one as in folder being April, which is not right. So advisable to go 01 January, etc. So I'm going to choose that folder, there we go, as my destination. Right, okay. Let's go down the right hand side here, rendering previews. I'll advise you to select anything but standard. Now what this actually does, it affects the size of the thumbnails which are actually reproduced by Lightroom when you import the images into the catalogue. So minimum will give you the quickest import time, but when you click on the image to render it, it will take quite a while to do that. So I wouldn't suggest you use minimum. You've got embedded, sidecar, and you've got standard. Standard is probably by far the best bet, gives you a best compromise between the two. And 1:1 is where it imports thumbnails which are very large, 100%. So when you click on the image to go to 100%, they're there straight away. But the trouble is, if you choose 1:1, you've got 250 images on your card. You might as well go away, make your dinner, eat it, come back, will still be importing, then do the washing up. I jest, but it will take a long time to import them. The only thing I would say is if you do use 1:1, after 30 days it will default back and get rid of the 1:1s, and I believe it goes back to standard. So I'm going to choose standard here. Okay, don't import select suspected duplicates. So if the images already exist in your catalogue, they will actually be greyed out, so they won't be chosen. Make a second copy too. So if you do have a backup which you want to use, as in you import the images into the folder of your choice, into the catalogue, and then you've also got a backup. So you can use this as a backup routine if you wish. I'm going to detick that because I haven't got a backup at this point in time. File renaming, you can choose to rename your files here if you wish, and there are lots of options you can use. I personally don't tend to do that. I tend to rename my files after I've imported them, as in the export stage. Apply during import. Now these are your develop settings. Now one of the beauties of Lightroom is that you do have presets, and these presets are very useful. As you can see, there's quite a few here. Probably one of the most useful ones to use are, let's just show you that, general punch. That just puts some vibrance into the image and applies a little bit of sharpening. Also what I've done is I've actually created my own presets here, which we'll talk about at a later stage, so you can actually use these in the import stage as well if you wish. So this is the one I use for my studio portraits. So what it's doing is doing a bit of tone adjustment, exposure and white balance. But we'll talk more about those. You've also got sharpening for scenic and sharpening for portraits, which you can apply, and that can also help with your workflow. So that's your develop settings. The only thing I would say is if you do that, then if you chose to make a second copy too, then it won't apply to the second copy. And also if you do a develop preset here, then you can't go back in the develop stage. So it's applying, you can't go back. Metadata, this here is, let's just show you. This is where you should put your presets in, as in your copyright status. So your name, and then you should put in here copyrighted, and then you should put in here rights usage terms. Do not copy without prior authorization or words to that effect. So that's advisable to do that. I wouldn't advise you to put your name and address in there, but you can put your web address, your email, etc. Okay. Keywords. Keywords can be applied at this stage, or they can be applied in the library module. Keywording is important, and we'll cover this again in another video, but it enables you to organize your images, because at the end of the day, Lightroom is a database. Destination, that shows you obviously where the images are going. So in this case, it's going to Lightroom exercise, as you can see. So I've selected all my images. I'm happy with that. And now what I'm going to do is physically import them. So literally all I have to do is just click on import. When I do that, as you can see, it comes up as copy and import photos. And what it's doing here, it's going to do it in 2 sessions. So the first one here, and then after that, once it's finished copying them over, you'll notice it comes up as rendering previews. There we go, rendering standard previews. So it's actually writing the previews, as in the thumbnails. And just to re-clarify, the way that Lightroom actually works is you physically import your images or thumbnail representations into Lightroom. So the way this works, you import the images into the folder of your choice on your hard disk. Lightroom then makes a thumbnail representation, puts that in the catalogue. So when you're making your adjustments are only applied to the thumbnail representations, and it's created by metadata. So when you make a change, it writes metadata to the thumbnail. The only time you actually use or refer to your master files is when you need to export it. So if you're exporting images, it then goes to the master file, makes a copy, and applies those changes. Okay, so that's the end of the first video. The second video will cover how you import from a folder.